A Switch 2, by any other name, would smell just as sweet. Well, no, it wouldn't. Marketing is an important part of a product, especially one as central to a business strategy as a console. A bad name or poor branding could permanently tarnish your image, and people often buy based on that image. Relating to Nintendo, well, we saw this with the Wii U. It was a really big deal. It did not clearly establish itself as a sequel to the Wii, and this caused a lot of confusion for casual consumers. Many thought of it as just a peripheral to the Wii, and it's hard to ignore that the Wii U was the lowest selling console. The worst console had the worst name. Meanwhile, the Switch had some amazing marketing and a great name. The Switch click sound is iconic. The name is concise, yet manages to explain what the console is all about. And this leads us to today. The Switch 2 has been revealed, and a few people are not so happy about the name. And I wanted to talk about it, cause I find this conversation pretty interesting. So why the Switch 2? Why not something like a Super Switch or a new Nintendo Switch? Well, first of all, I was always personally more of a fan of the Switch 2. I have a bone to pick with the Super Switch. For one, I just don't like how it sounds. Super Switch? I don't know, it's just a bit too slurry and slushy. But other than that, I think it needs to be said that the SNES, the last Super Nintendo console, released in 1990. That was 10 years before I was born, and I'm out of college. Nintendo has only really used the Super moniker in this context once. It's just not really consistent with what Nintendo's been doing recently. I mean, the 3DS, the 2DS, the Wii U, even the Switch OLED and Mini, the names of the new consoles in console renditions have always included some aspect of the gimmick. Super would not register to many new fans of Nintendo as meaning sequel system. That's just not really happened. This leads to the next problem. Well, it's the same problem that I've already spoken about. It's the Wii U problem. Pretty much every alternate name has a similar problem to the Wii U. It doesn't express itself as a new console. Super, new, advanced. These could all just be a name for the Switch Pro, a hardware revision. And this is especially a problem with how similar the Switch 2 is gonna be to the OG Switch. That distinction really needs to be made. If you buy into the theory that the Wii U was drastically hurt by its name, then all of these options are null and void. And this leads me on to the reason why Switch 2 was specifically picked. It's a sequel. The Switch 2 isn't just a new console, it's a successor console. It carries the same name, but it still needs to distinguish itself. That's the whole problem. And this is honestly more difficult than I think a lot of people realize. And well, what name immediately both shows the difference between two similar consoles, while also implying that they're in the same Switch family? Well, it's the number 2. And that continuity between the two consoles is important. We already know it's going to be backwards compatible, and it's keeping quite a lot of the similar design language, even if a bit sleeker. A 2 just does everything best for the console. It separates itself from being just a Switch revision, while connecting itself with the wider Switch brand. And again, that Switch brand is important, because it was really successful. It's really the best of both worlds. I guess that leaves the question of, would another name have been just as good? I mean, honestly, probably yeah. Switch 2 isn't necessarily a perfect name. There is something a bit sad about just putting a number 2 after the name, especially when so many other of Nintendo's consoles go that one step further beyond. 2 is bland, it's straightforward, it's not very creative. Not really Nintendo-esque, if we could go so far as to say. Well, no, it's Nintendo. It's the Switch 2. It's gonna be fine. There's way more to love about the system than just the name. We're gonna be getting great games. We're gonna be getting some pretty good hardware. It's gonna be a good time. I feel very strongly in that. Hey, maybe Shakespeare was right after all.